afternoon. Thanks for joining us today for Level Up on LinkedIn. I'm Melissa Samuels, Director of Alumni Programs for the University at Albany Alumni Association. Before we get started today, I just wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping items. First, we will be recording today's webinar, so I will make that link available to you once we post it on our website in case you want to go back over anything. Also today, we will be doing a Q&A, probably the last 15 minutes or so of the program. If you have questions for our presenter, please put those questions in the Q&A, not in the chat. We might miss them there. So I'm excited to get started. Let me introduce our speaker today. Miranda VonFricken, class of 2004, is the creator of LinkedIn Growth Academy, the 4 a.m. Club, and host of Albany's local networking experience. Miranda uses her creative talents and platform to support professionals looking to level up their life, career, and businesses through masterminds, speaking engagements, individual coaching, and content creation. I'm excited to have you with us today, Miranda, both excited to bring this program to our alums, but also professionally and personally interested to hear what you have to say, because I know I'm not using LinkedIn the way I should be. So yeah, so excited to have you with us today.
So much. I'm excited to be here. So it's funny, you're not the only one I've heard say that they need to use it more. And that's something we'll talk about today. Like, do you actually need to use it more? The answer is always going to be yes, because I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn. They should pay me commissions for just speaking about it, but they don't. But I speak and train on it because it's been so beneficial, not only to my business, my career, but my life in general. So I'm excited to have this conversation and look forward to any questions that come my way.
Great.
And I'm ready when you are.
Great. Miranda, I did just notice that your volume doesn't seem to be quite as high as it was before. Not sure if that's something that you can address. I just want to make sure folks can hear you.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I think that's a little better. All right, great. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me share my screen. Perfect. All right, friends, hopefully you see my screen and you're ready to level up on LinkedIn. Woo, woo. If you were here in person and if I could see your faces, I bet you we'd all be doing one of these, right? Because we're super pumped for this content, and I am too. And before we dive into it, it's time for a quick poll, right? I like to, before I do any training, find out who is in the audience. So Melissa's going to throw up a quick poll, and the first one is very, very basic. Are you on LinkedIn? I'm curious who's on it, who's not on it, who wants to be on it, all the things. Awesome. All right. I see a good percentage of you are on it. Small percent, not so much, but you will be after this, I bet. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So the results are in. We've got about 80% of you on LinkedIn. That's not bad, actually. All right, cool. So next question, we're going to talk about real briefly, are you active? Who is active on LinkedIn, right? So there's a difference between being on LinkedIn because you've got a profile that you made maybe 10 years ago, and active. The real definition of active is you're on it a few days a week. Maybe you're posting, maybe you're just commenting or liking things, you're scrolling, you're actually signed on to the platform throughout the week. Oh, wow, so we're about halfway there. All right, cool. So we've got about 48% said yes, you're active, and 52% said no. All right, cool. I can work with that because this is actually the sweet spot, right? Like those of you who are active are going to learn to really level up. And those of you who are not quite active are going to really get an advanced, like a 201 type class, right? Because you're going to learn all the awesome things about LinkedIn and how to level up at the same time. And then one last question is, why are you on LinkedIn? There's a few choices here. So some of you may have a couple answers that fit, like you want to network and you want a job search. And I'm just super curious what the actual answer is, like the one that you are there the most for. Job searching, networking to meet new people, to promote your business or brand, or you just heard it was something you need to be on, so you got a little FOMO if you're not there. Super curious what these results are, because I want to make sure that I speak to those of you who need it most, right? So we'll dive into all of these, but I also want to make sure that if we had, 90% job search, that I really hone into that. All right, got a few seconds left to network. Oh, my favorite thing. I'm so excited. All right, very cool. All right, so job search, about 48% to network landed at 61%, to promote your business or brand, 24%, and you heard it was a platform you should be on at 33%. So that's pretty funny. I love that. I'm so glad that networking is the majority of why you're here, because honestly, once you network, you're doing all the other things, right? You can find a job for yourself, for friends, for coworkers. You can promote your business, or if you're a 9-to-5er, you're promoting what you do at the 9-to-5 and the company, because advocacy is a huge thing on LinkedIn for being a brand promoter. And then if you heard it was a platform you should be on, I totally get that. It is a platform you should be on, but we should be doing it the right way, right? So thank you, Melissa, for the polls. I love these results. And I would click all of the buttons: networking, increasing my business or brand, and I know I should be on it if I had the option to vote. But thank you, Melissa. That was awesome. All right, we're going to dive right in to our presentation. All right, so here's a little bit about my LinkedIn journey, because some people will say, a lot of people are on LinkedIn, Miranda, why are you the one doing the training? Well, here's the reason why. One, I've been on it since 2007. I started in recruiting. My old 9-to-5 past life was in talent development and recruiting. So I've been doing that for over 10 years on the platform. Culture and branding, I added a little later in my career, around 2015, promoting the companies I worked for on LinkedIn, making them the place to work. So that's really how I did a lot of my recruiting and cultural activities. Training sales and marketing teams, added that a year later. So that's actually something that I'm hugely passionate about. I love sales teams, and I love helping them to utilize this platform to increase their reach, increase their brand, and just grow revenue for their teams and for their companies, and of course for themselves. I became the host of LinkedIn Local, which is a local networking connection event. So that was an in-person event in 2018 and 2019, and then COVID happened, so I turned it virtual in 2020. We've had 35 virtual events in the last year. We actually just celebrated our virtual 1-year anniversary. The next event is actually tomorrow. It's online on Zoom. If anyone's interested, there may be some margaritas involved because it's Cinco de Mayo. I won't be delivering them, but if you're interested in joining and checking it out, the virtual networking connection event, LinkedIn Local, is tomorrow. So connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll send you the link. It's a completely free event. We'd love to see you there. From there, I founded LinkedIn Growth Academy out of necessity. So I do a lot of these trainings in corporations. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, but in order to serve our business community as much as possible on a larger scale, I created LinkedIn Growth Academy, which is a group training, about 20 people per experience, because I really dive in to you, the individual, your goals for LinkedIn, and how I can help you level up on the platform, not just an overall kind of, here's why you should be on it, here's some cool ninja tricks. We really dive into it during this academy. And I work with job seekers, content creators, small and large businesses, solopreneurs, nonprofits, and brands. So that's a little about me and my LinkedIn experience. You can see some of those photos, some of my Zoom calls. The one on the bottom is actually one of the in-person events we've had. LinkedIn has done so much for me. I'm not going to lie, not just in growing my business or helping my clients to find jobs and helping me to connect people, but the community here locally on LinkedIn really rallied around me when I had a big transition in my life through layoffs and through a loss of a family member. So I was quite surprised to see that LinkedIn and the community itself really did something for my personal life. It helped me grow personally, not just professionally. So this is why I speak about LinkedIn, because I know the benefits of it. So hopefully you'll start to see some of those benefits as well. All right, so why LinkedIn in general, right? You know why I'm on LinkedIn, but maybe why should you be on LinkedIn, or why are some of my clients on LinkedIn? And here's just a few of the reasons. One is to build industry relationships, to network. It was the #1 reason you guys came to this presentation, to inform, educate, and engage your audience. Of course, we also want to grow our audience, but we also, once the ones we have, we need to make sure that we're doing something with them. If you're in sales and marketing, you know LinkedIn's the place to be. Create brand recognition, both personally and professionally. No matter what your business is, there's a reason to be on LinkedIn, and it's to really create that brand recognition. Of course, in tandem with your website, with your email marketing, and all the other awesome things that you do to grow your brand, to gain influence. If you are a leader, you've got a team or a specific brand that you're trying to promote, you can really gain influence on the platform to build and grow your community and to find professional opportunities. A lot of people who I work with besides corporations and sales teams are the actual job seeker. In my former life, I was a career coach in higher education. And what I did was use LinkedIn to connect talent to opportunity. So if you were looking to find a job, LinkedIn is a place you need to be. And it's not just clicking that job opening button where you're searching to see who's posting for job openings. You really want to start networking and find the people who are going to hire you, connect with them, and grow your influence that way. So those are just a few reasons why we should be on LinkedIn. But it all starts with your profile, right? Like, it's awesome that you're going to be active on LinkedIn, but if your profile looks a little crazy or it's not complete, the algorithm is not going to share you as much as it would if you completed your profile. There is this all-star status, which some people are like, what does that even mean? It just means you're checking all the boxes. You're filling out all the sections, the profile sections that LinkedIn is asking you to fill out. And if you're super new to LinkedIn or you haven't been on it in years, LinkedIn is a very user-friendly platform. It will, once you go to the edit profile section, it will show you what to do next and take you right through the steps. So you can absolutely do this on your own and not be stressed about it. But your profile is where we're going to start today and then dive into how to grow. Because you really do, if you're bringing people to your LinkedIn profile, you want to make sure it looks good, right? Because impressions are everything. All right, so there's about 13 to 15 experience or sections in the profile, depending on what you're using it for. Not every job seeker is gonna need to have a featured media section, but maybe you can. Definitely business owners or companies are gonna want a featured media section, so you may not use every single one of these sections. Just extract what you need from our time together today and utilize that to do what's best for you and align it to your goals on the platform. So of course we have both photos, that big background photo, and we have that small headshot photo. We'll talk a little about that. We have the headline, which is actually, what you do or what you contribute. We'll talk a little about that. There's a special formula that I like to use. We've got contact information, of course, services that you offer, or if you're open to work. There's a few buttons we can click behind the scenes. If you're a job seeker, you can put your open to work and specifically what industries you're looking for. Technically, you can get down to the titles, right? What titles are you actually looking for on LinkedIn, which is kind of cool. There's the about section. You can attach media to this about section, which is really fun. It's called featured media. You can attach your website to that section. You can attach photos. There's a lot you can put there. Then we have the experience section. So this is what you would think of as your resume section, the places you worked, your titles, the dates, and what you did, and what you brought to that company. Then, of course, we've got the education, the licenses and certifications, any volunteer work, any skills and accomplishments, recommendations are one of my favorite sections, and then endorsements. So I highlighted 3, you'll see up here. The headline for me is really attention grabbing, and you'll see in the next section of our training together why I think the headlines are so important. That top 3 sections here, I divided them into 3. You'll see here on the presentation. The reason is because that top 3, that 1/3 of our profile, is actually what they see before they decide to scroll down and see more. So you really want to capture their attention in those first 3 sections: the photos, the headline, the contact information. That's not a big deal, but you also, it's on top, and you want to make sure that you have in there what they need to get a hold of you. And I caution you on some things like phone numbers. So if it's your business number, great. If it's your home number, take it off. And then services offered and open to work. There's also a really important piece to that. If you are a business, you should make sure you have that on. Some of my clients say, I don't see that, that's not there. But then you could just quickly reach out to the help desk and tell them, hey, I need my services offered or open to work to be turned on. So they will go behind the scenes if you don't have that and turn that on for you. I remember when I signed up for the premium account, I didn't have that option, but I had to go in and email them and ask them to turn it on. So it's super quick and easy. They'll turn it on. I think it was in like 24 hours or later on in that afternoon, I had the ability to use it. So make sure that you have that turned on. All right, so that second part is important, of course. We'll talk about it a little bit, but we're not really going to dive into it today because it's a little self-explanatory. It's about you. You're adding some accompanying media and the experience that you have either at 9-to-5s, companies you ran, or businesses that you own. Education's self-explanatory, volunteer. So it's funny, this top section really makes it pop, right? Who you are. The middle section is what you do. That last section really speaks to the cultural piece for my 9-to-5ers, who you are holistically as a professional, right? So the education piece, the volunteer piece, the skills and accomplishments, recommendations and endorsements. This kind of gives you that well-rounded professional appeal. And I highlighted the recommendations because it's very important for not only a job seeker, but for a networker and a business owner to actually show some of their recommendations that people are referring you. These are my, so you'll see on my LinkedIn profile that I have a bunch, right? And I'm not a, less is more kind of person when it comes to recommendations. I think more is awesome. So if you do any work for people, if you were a contractor for someone, whatever you may have done to contribute your skills to someone in a professional manner, I would absolutely ask them to give you a recommendation. Some things I run into with clients, they'll say, or even 9-to-5ers, somebody gave me a written recommendation like 5 years ago, and either I don't reach out, I don't know how to get a hold of them today, or they're not on LinkedIn. How do I get this glowing recommendation on paper onto my LinkedIn? Well, you can't type it in for the person. You actually can do a couple things though. You can attach it as a photo in your media section, or you can type it up and put the person's name, almost like a quote, in your About Me section. So there's a few ways we can kind of work around some of these things that you may not have a specific spot for, but you want to put it on your profile. All right, so let's dive in. That top 3, right? We're talking about profiles that pop and stand out. I'm going to show you 3 top 1/3 of your profile sections. And I don't have a poll for this, so just in your head, think about which one really stands out. We've got Adrian. We've got Lynn, and we've got John. So there's 3 top sections that we just talked about, that 1/3. And which one really stands out to you? Which one really pops? And that's this whole section. I know I see the chats going, so obviously you know which one's popping, right? So this one is probably what some of yours looks like. Those who say I'm on it, I don't really use it. Nothing wrong with that. This is a beautiful area of opportunity, right? So we can do something with this. Lynn's actually a client of mine. This is a beautiful, I mean, her photo is gorgeous. The colors are fantastic. The black and white though, although a beautiful photo, it's missing something. It's not doing anything for her specifically. So she is an owner of a business, and you can see that down here in her headline section where she talks about, this is what I do, Sohan Insurances. But this up top part, it's just a pretty picture, right? It's not doing anything for her. You almost want to use this top part as a billboard, right? Even if you're a job seeker, I've created beautiful backdrop photos in Canva. And I think Melissa will put, it's just canva.com. There is a free version of it where you can make beautiful backdrops and almost make it look like a business card, where you would put your name and your expertise, or maybe something that isn't in your headline to tell more of a picture, how to get a hold of you, what your website is. And that is what John's doing here. John obviously owns a business. He does sales. He does marketing. Maybe he's got a branding expert that created this for him, but this is sleek. This really pops. I mean, his shirt matches the period after Sell Better. I mean, hello. I don't know, John, but maybe I should reach out to him and tell him how awesome this looks, right? The thing here is he does a couple of things. It's visually appealing, right? So there's really nice colors that jump out at me. He's got his logo, which we know is his logo because it's down here under the follow. We see the company he works for and the university he attended. So we know this signature up top is his logo. Sell Better, that must be his tagline, right? So with him, it's also his how to get a hold of him. So there is wonderful ways for me to say, well, if this is what I'm looking to do, sell better, he's helping elevate the profession of sales. I think I need to get a hold of this guy so I can sell better, right? I don't even need to scroll down and check out his about section and see all the bells and whistles and his experience. I may scroll all the way to the bottom and look at recommendations before I reach out. But this, you don't have to be a business owner or a sales guy to have an amazing backdrop photo that really brings to life who you are as a professional, right? So keep that in mind when we're doing this. Couple things. This beginning section, the 2 photos, the tagline, the contact info, this is what we see when somebody comments or when you comment on somebody's post and you're putting your 2 cents underneath. This is what they see. They see your photo, a little bit of your headline, tagline at the bottom. So you want to make sure that this is everywhere on your computer as well as your phone. So keep that in mind, that no matter where we are, this is the branding section, essentially. Not the only one, but this is the main one. This is first impression right here. So if you were driving down the street and there's a billboard up in the top right of your, your windshield, and who's your audience? First of all, you gotta know who your audience is, right? And then what are you saying to them? What do you want them to know before that red light turns green, right? That's always my bit of advice for this big section right here is, what do I want them to know? Maybe it just says hire me, right? And it talks about like 3 of your biggest skills, in little lines on the bottom of the photo. You really need to stand out these days to get anything done in life and business, because sometimes the market's saturated with a lot of what you do. There's a lot of LinkedIn trainers, right? And the reason I get known is because I deliver, but also my backdrop screams hire me. I do all these things. Check me out. It's bold, it's bright, and it's high energy. And that's really like what I want people to see and feel when they look at my profile. So Lynn's beautiful, but it doesn't describe much of it doesn't really do much for her. So that's not bad. And then Adrian's, she's got a little work to do. So these are kind of like your examples of maybe what to follow depending on what your goals are. But it always starts with what your goals are for the platform. Now you see on John's, he is helping elevate the profession of sales. Very simple, right? Very one-liner, quick words. You actually have way more space. So I would utilize all that space. Lynn does a great job utilizing all that space, right? So she talks about what she does and who she does it for, essentially. And then here, sales, right? So we got a little work to do here. On my profile, you'll see it says something like self-leadership expert. I help professionals. So here's the formula that I love to use, right? Whether you're a 9-to-5er or just someone who wants to be on LinkedIn and do a better job being on it, or you own a business. The formula, and I can throw this in the chat at the end, or if you want to grab a pen really quick, it's I do X for Y by Z. Super easy. I'll repeat it again if Melissa, you want to type that in, sorry. I do X for Y by Z. So I'm a salesperson. He's elevating the profession of sales. He doesn't say who it's for or how he does it. So it's a little different. He's not utilizing all of his space. But if you wanted to utilize more space, he just tells you what he does. So he's just the first part. There is more space for you to add more because you want to make sure that you kind of explain what you do if it's not in the top. So that's just one formula that you could use for your headlines. All right. Diving into the next section. If you have questions, put it in the Q&A. I will answer all of them at the end. Promise. All right. So we've got our profile. It looks awesome. We went from top to bottom in the different sections. We really dove into that top third, of course, because that's what's going to get people to keep scrolling. And if you're a job seeker, because there was a good percentage of you as job seekers, keep in mind your resume is key because you're applying to jobs. But whoever's reading your resume, if they like it, they're going to go to your LinkedIn, check out your photos, and check out what that top section says. They're also going to scroll down because they want to match your experience and make sure that the dates line up and that is an addition to, it doesn't have to mirror it specifically. Your resume doesn't have to be a carbon copy of the LinkedIn experience, but you want it to maybe show a human side that your resume may not, right? Depending on your skill sets and what you do. Your LinkedIn profile is just an addition to your resume. Just keep that in mind too. All right, but now that our profile looks fantastic, we are going to talk about increasing our reach and how to get seen. I call this the 3 C's, and they're super easy. You're gonna be like, oh, duh, that first one's kind of a given, right? The first thing is to connect. Hello, you want to increase your audience, increase your reach? You have to connect with people. So there's a couple things that are pretty obvious to me on LinkedIn because I use it every day. They may not be for half of you who said they're not very active on the platform. So one is to use the search bar with your filters. If you are looking to connect with people, a couple different things. If you're a job seeker, maybe you're searching for the title you want to become, and then you filter it by the locations of where you work and where you live. So you can find, marketing directors in Albany, New York. So how does that help you get a job? You're like, what does that even do for me? Well, that's the networking piece that leads to opportunity. So you find all the marketing directors in Albany, New York, and maybe you take a peek at their profile, send them a quick personalized note that says like, hello, Sarah. I don't know, Sarah, I'm just making it up, but hello, Sarah. I am actually applying for marketing director roles in the upstate New York, Albany area. I see that you are a director of marketing and have been in this industry for years. I'd love to connect, maybe pick your brain. I'd love to connect and ask you a question. Maybe before that, you searched the company to see if Sarah's company was hiring in her department. So you could do a couple things, connect with her with a private message, but really have that intention to build a relationship versus asking to get something from her before there is that relationship established. So just saying, I'd love to connect is not a bad way to start a relationship, right? So keep that in mind. This photo you see on the side is our QR code. We use this in person events. So it's actually on your cell phone. At the top of LinkedIn, if you have the app, of course you have to have the app first, right in that search function, you may not be able to see it here, but right in that top search function is actually where that QR code is. You click on it and you can scan it, or you give somebody else access to your QR code and boom, you're connected. It's pretty cool. Actually, you got to click the accept button, but it'll go into that section for you to connect to people. And that's why I'm a huge fan of this, because at my in-person events for LinkedIn Local, or if I go to chamber events or alumni events and I want to connect with someone, aside from handing them a business card and hopefully we don't lose it or we go back to it and search them on LinkedIn, this is such an easier way to just quickly, hey, let's connect on LinkedIn. Let's scan each other quick and we're all set. Awesome. Then you can kind of continue that relationship the next day. And it'll all be in that networking piece of your LinkedIn profile to be able to take that relationship to the next step. So that's what that photo is. It's just a quick example of how we can use things in person. But while we're here virtually, there's a couple of awesome ways that we can really increase our reach. A, by going to these virtual networking events. Now this one's a webinar, so it's a little different. We don't know who's in here. But if you went to one where we can see everybody, which mine is tomorrow, so feel free to join me, of course, you can take a screenshot. Or you could take a quick photo of who's on the screen and go back later and connect to those people because you'll have their name. And you can say, hey, Pete, I was just at that LinkedIn training that Miranda did. I'd love to connect with you. I'm looking to increase my reach. So there's a couple really easy entry-level ways for you to start increasing your reach just by connecting to new people. Anyone you meet with, anyone you do business with, don't worry about competition. There's enough business for everybody. People will ask me often, should I connect with my competitors? And well, if you met the person and you know the person, absolutely. Don't be too nervous about connecting to people who do what you do because they may take your network. Think about the collaborative opportunities. Think about their people seeing your content. So think about it that way and have more of the abundant mindset when it comes to connecting on LinkedIn. Now, some people say they'll only connect with people they met in person. Cool, you do you, right? Like whoever you want to connect with, do that. I work with a woman who will set up a one-on-one with anytime somebody connects to her. She wants to have a one-on-one with this person and do a quick Zoom call and see how they can help each other. That's a beautiful way to fill your calendar, of course. But also, if you just connect with them and once a week go through, send a quick voice memo, a little video, or a quick note saying, I'm so happy we connected. I can't wait to be a part of your network. Thank you. You will build and increase your reach in no time. I went, and not even on purpose, but I went from about 4,000 to 10,000 in a matter of a year after I left the corporate environment because I was being very intentional about my networking and who I wanted to surround myself with on LinkedIn. So use the search bar filters, go into groups, find people in groups that share a similar interest, and find those people you want to connect with and make sure you reach out. Don't be shy here. Connect to all the people you want to surround yourself with. Send them a personal note and connect with the intention of building that relationship. All right, so that's my first C, is to connect. Second C is to contribute, right? So this way, not everyone feels comfortable putting out posts, right? They're like, listen, I'm not a content creator. I'm not someone who like shares my personal experiences. How do I continue to increase my reach and not just connect to people blindly? And I've got nothing on my page because the activity page for posts is kind of empty because I don't do much. Here's your way in. It's to contribute to other conversations that people have started, right? Your profile set, you've got some new connections now. Go to their profile, check out their activity page, and really contribute to the conversation. You can comment on posts. I will do a post after we get off this webinar with my makeshift setup that I've got here in my office. And I'll talk about what an awesome experience this was. And hopefully you all found value from it. Comment on that. And then everybody in my network will see your comment. You can comment on other people's comment. Maybe someone says, oh, great training, Miranda, I took this part, was the biggest takeaway for me. And somebody else says, wow, that was my biggest takeaway too. And then you guys are having a conversation under my original post. And I'm not even a part of it. It's just you two. So that's a new way to connect to people. You're engaging with each other. Leave your opinions and thoughts on articles. A lot of people put articles out here. They're huge thought leaders on this platform that say amazing things. So if you read it and think it's amazing, share that article, share their post, and put your thoughts right on top. Don't just share blindly, share, but put your thoughts on top. I read this article today. This is what I took away from it. Or I read this article today. You should too. Right? And maybe put a little hashtags on it, but that's a little deeper into the training. But you're just sharing other people's thoughts if you find value from them. So you're still helping your audience, but not coming up with original content. You can tag others, other connections that you have in the comments. So later on, I'll be giving you an opportunity to take this training to the next level. And if you're like, I'm totally in, or I don't think I need it, but I know someone who does, maybe you tag them in it. Tagging other people and inviting them to the conversation allows for deeper communications within the networks, right? So that maybe that person meets all new people in the comments. The bottom line is just to join the conversation. You don't have to go crazy thinking of what am I going to say today on LinkedIn. I know so many people who freak out about that, and you don't have to. You don't have to say anything original if you don't have anything valuable to say or you're nervous. Start slow. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So just join the conversation. There's tons of content creators out there that are doing it beautifully, especially in our area. There's tons of Albany people who are saying great things. Check out what they're saying, check out their activity, and feel free to leave some comments. Join the conversation. So that's our second C, is to contribute. And our third C, this is when you're ready, is to create, right? So this is, we're not going to talk about content creation or, content calendars or branding. That I get into in my bigger training, but we will absolutely talk about the importance of using your authentic voice on this platform. This is your space to educate, to inform, sometimes make people laugh. My biggest post in the last 6 or 7 years was about string cheese. It's crazy. I won't even tell you what it was about, but people went crazy over the string cheese post. And I'm like, are you guys kidding me? This is the thing you want to see. Now, of course, I infuse humor into everything I do because that's just who I am. But think about the people who are actually on LinkedIn, right? Like maybe they're 9-to-5ers sitting in their cubicle, and this is the way for them to scroll at 3 o'clock to break up their day. Maybe they're looking to be educated because LinkedIn isn't stopped a lot of the times by IT. So they want to go somewhere and find some things to learn or some topics to discuss. Maybe they are just scrolling, right? But think about your audience and what do they want to hear from you? What is your zone of genius that you can share with the world? And really by the world, I mean LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is a global platform. So here are some ways you can share your voice, your message, your brand, your ideas on LinkedIn. You can create short, or long form posts. You have about 1,300 characters, I think, 1,200 or I think 1,200 characters on LinkedIn and in a post, and you can attach a photo to it. And that's a great way to start a conversation. You can create articles, graphics, fun facts, slides are huge. Polls are huge right now. If you haven't done a poll on LinkedIn and you want to grow on LinkedIn, you're missing out. Do a quick poll, even if it's something silly like how active are you on LinkedIn? You know, very, not so much. Sometimes like polls are huge right now. I'm getting second and third connections that are actually voting on my polls that I would never have seen before. I would have never had access to these people, and now I am because of these polls. So you can make videos. Videos are huge. Go live if you have access to live. That is something they've rolled out country by country, depending on your activity level and a couple other factors, but going live is pretty huge too. Collaborating with others. This is such a nice way to create content that's your own, but also partner with someone else. If you have somebody in your industry who's also like a thought leader as yourself, maybe you get together and do a quick post together. I can't tell you how many times I've taken a selfie with someone, put it on LinkedIn, and then we've both put our 2 cents in the post and tagged each other and shared it to both of our networks, and how much that will help us grow our followings together. Using hashtags is great. Now, with hashtags, you can't just put like hashtag and hope that it's going to grow. It has to be strategic to what it is you're saying, your industry. And I highly recommend creating your own hashtag so you can find all of your posts in that topic. There is a list. If you even Google, you can probably find it in an article, top LinkedIn hashtags. You'll see stuff like technology, innovation, inspiration, motivation. Those have millions of followers. I recommend not using those ones because you're going to get lost with the millions of people that are posting under that hashtag. Try to find the ones that are relevant to your post, to your industry, to the message you're trying to say, and find the hashtags that are about, 10,000, 15,000, around that area, because there's a lot of people that are following. You see, there are a lot of opportunities for us to create our own content and to really be able to share our voice on the platform. And to just really wrap up the training part of things, the whole idea of LinkedIn is to be active, right? To engage in the community and to be consistent, right? So consistency is actually the key to growing. So I tell people to start small because it can get overwhelming. You're like, oh my gosh, do I have to spend all day on LinkedIn? Like, no, not at all, right? Not at all. I grew my reach by 20 minutes a day. When I was a 9-to-5er, I would spend 20 minutes on LinkedIn connecting to talented people, connecting to people in my industry. And then as I became a business owner, I spent a little more time on LinkedIn. And the next thing you know, people are connecting to me. So that first part, although so important, depending on your industry and your line of work, maybe you are creating content and they'll just come to you if your stuff is good enough, right? So keep that in mind. Your comfortability level, like make sure that you are being authentic to yourself, right? So don't go 100% on LinkedIn one week and the next week, don't say much because you're trying to be this person that, shares content, but really that's not who you are. Find the thing that works for you, whether it's the connection piece, the content piece, or just contributing to the conversation. Start small, be consistent, utilize what you feel most comfortable doing. I'd say about 10 minutes every time you're on, right? Like you could spend 10 minutes 3 times a week, 2 times a week, once a week. It's really up to you, right? If you've got bigger goals, maybe you increase that time. But if your goal is just to meet new cool people, you don't have to be on there all day, every day. Ease into it, have fun. Consistency, though, is the key to really growing your brand. So we've got one last poll after our time together, and it's who's ready to level up on LinkedIn, right? Like after hearing all of the innuendos of LinkedIn and where to use it and how you can grow on it, who's ready? Is it me? Is it maybe? Or is it, nah, I'm good. LinkedIn's not for me. I'm cool with all the answers, of course. All right, so I see that so far 83% of you are ready to level up on LinkedIn. And now 23% of you that say maybe, I totally get it. You're still not convinced that this is the platform for you. But the way we ended it, it's 78% of you are ready to level up. And for those of you who are, or are super curious, I've got one little offer for you. So, LinkedIn Growth Academy. I actually talked a little about this in the beginning. This is the training that I do for individuals and brands and companies, but this one specifically holds 20 people each. I do it once a quarter. It's for 20 people. We talk really in depth about platform optimization, the SEO behind the scenes. There are some crazy ninja tricks that you wouldn't even think that we need to use on our LinkedIn page to make sure the algorithms push us out and we get found. We do dive into content and branding. We talk about how to grow your connections, how to power network with intentions, of course, and ultimately increase your reach, spread your message, be an influencer, be a thought leader on this platform. If you're interested, awesome, we'd love to see you there. Next class is June 3rd. This is going to be an evening class. Sometimes I'll do it during lunchtime, but because it's about a 2.5, sometimes 3-hour event, because I do everything from a networking mindset. So we do start by getting to know each other. Feel free to check it out on Eventbrite. It's LGA 2021 at eventbrite.com, and write down the code SUNY in all caps for your discount, 20% off just for attending this event. Now, I understand that some of you are watching this, the recording. Feel free to use it too, but there's only 20 spots. So keep that in mind. All right, questions. Melissa, I know I went a few minutes over because of my issues with my internet, but let's talk about questions. Who's got them?
Yes, we've got some going. If you want to stop your screen share, Miranda, that will allow us to fill the screen a little bit better here, and I will jump into it. One of our alums today would like to know, what about when your current or previous employer does not allow you to acknowledge your work, that you work or that you did work there on social media of any kind? So the employer has some issues with posting things on social.
Of course. So I run into that a lot, actually. I work with a lot of companies who are very heavy on compliance, and there's a lot of restrictions when it comes to what they're able to do on LinkedIn. So what I would suggest is in the experience section, put company anonymous, or something not specific to the company, but then be able to, in the experience section, talk about what you did, right? If it's a proprietary product, or if it's something where it's obvious, right? If it's like a toy maker and they only made one kind of toy and that's the toy you sold, try to not be super specific, but you can still speak to the work you did, especially if you were there for a long time and contributed a lot to this company. That's fine if you don't want a name drop and they don't want their name in social media. I totally get it. But you own your LinkedIn. You are still able to express your experience on this platform. This is your site. So respect them. There's a beautiful way to kind of blend the respect for the company, but still owning your skills, talent, and experiences. You don't have to put a name of a company in. You can just put something, anonymous company or confidential. This is probably an option actually in a drop-down box, because this is probably not the only company who feels that way.
Okay, great. All right, Sophia asks, sometimes it can be difficult to message certain persons of interest because they are LinkedIn Premium members or a third person connect. Is there some way to get around those restrictions?
Yeah, find somebody in common, right? So if it's a third person, you should be able to see who you have in common, whether you're in Premium or not. And then see if you can get someone to introduce you to that person. Now, if you can't do that, because maybe that doesn't always work, but if there's 0 people in common, send them an email. We have, even the free ones have a certain amount of availability to connect with somebody with a message. So make sure that you send a private message to the connection. The only way you're not really going to be able to is if you need their email address, or if there's a secret code they want you to enter. So to get around that is really just to find somebody else to get you in. It's kind of like finding a hard job. Get somebody to walk your resume in. Same way with an introduction on LinkedIn.
Okay. Vanessa would like to know, how does LinkedIn protect our profiles? I had a few friends that were asked on dates through this platform.
All right, so LinkedIn is not responsible for all the crazy people that are out there in the world. And I don't work for LinkedIn.
So there are privacy in our behind the scenes, in our profile settings, some settings you can set up, but there's not a setting for weirdos, right? So
Unfortunately, no.
trust me, I get it. Like, I mean, I've been on the platform for years. I get some wackadoos. You could just block that person, right? Get the message, don't respond, block them. But you know what? They don't always turn out to be the weirdos. They may just be a regular guy who wants to just have a conversation. Then they ask you out, and it's like, it is still a social media platform. So that's where you have to know your boundaries and either be done with the conversation and say, no, thank you. You can ghost them, unconnect to them, block them. There's a lot of ways that you can protect yourself, not just LinkedIn.
Okay, here's another. Should I accept everyone who asks to connect with me?
Why not? I mean, I say yes/no. It's a horrible answer.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain that one.
I will dive deep into that. So I'm a huge fan of connecting, even if they don't give me like a reason to connect. I know a lot of trainers will say, you know, send a private message. And I do too. I'm actually one of those people that are like, there's a reason you want to connect to this person. Tell them why. The people who aren't sending a message are just looking to increase their reach, right? They're really looking to just get numbers, and they're in it for the vanity metrics, which can be annoying, but vanity metrics, they're there for a reason, right? So it shows that you have a higher connection count, and some people are really looking for that. You could respond to them. You can say yes and respond. Hey, Pete, thanks so much for connecting. Like, I'm super curious what drew you to my profile, you know, and ask them. And if they don't respond, you can then unconnect to them if you feel so inclined to do so. Or I have a lot of connections that are just sitting in there like pending, right? Like, I'm like, I peeked at your profile. We have nothing in common. You worked a half a job for 5 minutes. You have no connections in common with me. What is it a bot? More than likely, yes, it could be a bot. But I mean, it's totally up to you. You can do the work and research whether you really want to be connected to this person or not, or you could just say, no, thank you. I mean, if they're in our area and they could have been on a webinar for, you know, who knows why they're connecting. They could be super shy and not know how to really put together a nice message, or they may just think you're cute and want to connect with you, which goes back to what Vanessa said. So you can say yes and then no. You can say no, go back and say yes, or you can just leave it. So it really is a personal preference. I connect mostly 90% to everybody, whether there's a message or not, and then I'll go back and send a quick note like, hey, thanks for connecting. I actually have an out of office that I use when they send a message. So they'll get something that says, thanks so much for connecting. I value our connection and our friendship. If there's a specific reason, shoot me another message. Let me know what I can do for you. And sometimes there's not, and I get no reply to it. It's just, you know, increasing the connections.
Someone's asking if there's a link they can use for the event you're holding tomorrow.
So no, there's a link that I'll send you. So here's the thing with that. People are always like, can I go on link, you know, go on somewhere and register? No, because it's so chill. This is my one event that I do for fun, right? I'm not making $1 off it. I'm not like promoting people or anything. I mean, sometimes I'll have a guest on there. This is just for fun. If you can make it, join us. There is a Zoom link though. So if you are on LinkedIn, I don't want to send it like to the whole like alumni group, because then I'll get like 100 people joining it, because I like to keep it around 30 to 50, right? So if you want to join, yes, please join me. Send me a quick note on LinkedIn. Say it was on the SUNY webinar. I want to go to LinkedIn local. There's actually a post circulating right now with, you know, reminding people to message or comment I'm in, and then I send you the link. So yeah. And it's every other Wednesdays at 12 p.m. So you can actually put it in your calendar if you enjoy it. So tomorrow, then 2 weeks from tomorrow, and we've been doing that for a year.
Great. So folks, connect with Miranda on if you weren't already planning to, and you'd like to know more about that and get some good connections, connect that way. All right, we have time for, I think, a couple more. I always struggled with what I should say when I reach out to someone on LinkedIn. I don't want to just say, I'd like to connect with you. What's something more meaningful that I can say?
So is this for you, or did somebody write this in?
No, I had a couple people sharing questions with me beforehand.
All right, good. Because I could get.
But you know what? Yes, that could be for me too.
Real granular for you specifically. All right. So for those who asked, it makes a complete sense that you're asking this question. So one, in your head, why do you want to connect with this person, right? Like, what's the goal behind it? Like, did you just like the vibe? Like I get tired how many times I've had a connection request that are like, dude, I'm digging the hot pink. I'm digging the pizza emojis. I too support wine and coffee. And I'm like, I'm in, brother, I'm in. Let's do this. Let's connect. So sometimes it can just be you got a real positive vibe from one of their posts or their profile, or you have somebody in common that you know. I've gotten the generic ones like, hey, we've got 800 people in common, let's connect. And I'm like, damn, that's a lot of people, let's connect. And I've got the ones that say, we've got 4 people in common, we should connect. I'm like, 4 people? You need to try harder. So this is what you can say. In your head, why am I connecting to this person? And just articulate that in the message. Please don't send them salesy stuff. I actually do a whole presentation on the top 5 mistakes you're making while networking, specifically on LinkedIn. And one of them is coming in too hot, right? Like, don't come in hot. Don't tell them, if you're a salesperson, don't tell them all the solutions you have to all their problems. Because who are you to tell them they got problems? Even if you see an obvious problem and they're like, I see obvious problems on people's LinkedIn pages, but I'm not going to reach out to them and say, hey, I can rock your world and increase your sales by 80% if you take my Growth Academy class. I'm like, hey, I'd love to connect. I see you're active on LinkedIn. I love what you're doing in the industry, in the community. I'd love to connect. Like that one liner at the bottom with a little blurb on top, I'd love to connect, is a nice invitation. You don't have to really send them a book. I even hate those books. Don't send paragraphs. Nobody's got time to read your paragraphs. So just make it a nice 2-liner, the why and the what. And that's usually simple enough.
Okay, great. One of the other questions that were sent to me in advance, are there other networking tools like LinkedIn that I should consider using?
Other networking sites?
Tools, platforms like LinkedIn that I should be consider?
Yeah, all of them. Any social media site is an opportunity to network with people. If you're into dancing, hop on TikTok. You don't have to just dance, but my 9-year-old just dances on TikTok. I tried to do a few and she was like, you're embarrassing me, knock it off. I'm like, Mama's got to connect to fun people too. She's like, please stop it. Clubhouse is a big one, although you'd have to go through their Instagram to get to them, right? Unless they've updated some of their, messaging opportunities, but or options. But so you can go on Clubhouse and meet a lot of cool people. You'll have to go to LinkedIn or Insta to connect with them. But I've met a lot of people on Clubhouse since it's been around, because people are, having conversations that I want to be a part of. So I'll join in, I'll check out their profile, and then I'll write their name down. And I'll find them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I just heard you on Clubhouse, or maybe I got invited to the stage and I was just talking to them on Clubhouse. A lot of the times I'll be listening to something on Clubhouse, having a LinkedIn conversation with somebody who's also in the room. Instagram's a huge one, right? Like the Facebook, it depends on what you're on, right? Like Facebook for me is a little less active professionally. It's mostly like my mom and her cooking, but it's totally up to you. Here's my thought, and I heard Gary Vee say this years ago, go hard on 80% of the platform you feel the most comfortable with and your audience is there, and then dabble 20% in the other platforms. Now, I dabbled in Clubhouse, I dabbled in TikTok, I dabbled in Instagram, but it turned out that LinkedIn was my jam. So that's my 80, now 95%, and I love it there. And especially over COVID, more and more people have gotten on LinkedIn because it's a professional way to connect with people. And most of the time, it is a professional conversation we're having. You're going to find the wackadoos everywhere. So just keep in mind, this is the most professional one. And if you're a salesperson, this is where the people who make money are, right? Like, I make money. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram, Clubhouse too, of course, but the majority of income or business leaders or C-suite or millionaires, they're on LinkedIn.
They're on LinkedIn. Yeah, agreed. I haven't found anything else that rivals it. So, okay, final question. And you actually gave us a little preview, which was, what are the most common mistakes you see people make on LinkedIn?
Coming in hot at number 1, where, and sometimes too, it's another big one. And one of those 5 mistakes is assuming people network like you do. Right. So not everyone wants to hop on a coffee chat Zoom call for an hour. Right. Not everyone wants to hop on your calendar link. Man, what a pain in the butt. If I get one more Calendly link before I actually get to know someone, I'm going to go crazy, because it's just, sometimes it's off-putting, but sometimes, everybody's different though. Right. So that's why the big thing is to not assume everyone networks like you do. Yeah, really I'd love to network on LinkedIn, but maybe the people I want to find aren't on LinkedIn. The certain audience, or maybe they like to consume content before they have a conversation. So if you just come in and introduce yourself as you and say, hey, I'd love to actually have a deeper conversation with you. How do you like to network with people? Because I'm in. However you want to network, let's do this. And they may not even reply to you. And you're like, I guess they don't like to network. But maybe they connected with you. They said yes, so maybe that's how you start, and just get into their posts and their activities and join the conversations.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's a very respectful approach, acknowledging, that you're the one looking to connect, how would they like to do it? So I think that makes a lot of sense. All right, well, we are out of time, but any final words, final recommendations, anything you'd
Oh my
like
gosh,
to
I
share?
got all of them.
we-
Just go on LinkedIn and have fun. Have fun. Don't be too don't put pressure on yourself to track your numbers of how many people connected with you today or tomorrow. I've been there. I've done the crazy, and I've also done the fun. And the fun is just, it's better. I don't post specifically Monday, Thursday, Friday, that kind of thing. I just go on there when I feel called to say something and it's valuable to my audience, I say it. If not, I don't need to say it, right? So have fun, start small, and just get on LinkedIn and start utilizing it.
Miranda, thank you so much. I mean, you've personally had great success with LinkedIn, and I think that really translates into the advice that you shared. I will send a follow-up email to everybody. I will share Miranda's contact information if you have questions or want to reach out. But I hope you enjoyed the program today as much as I did. And have a great afternoon, everybody.